Welcome, everybody, to Podcast Beyond, episode 469.
Ooh,
yeah.
469.
Stop it.
Official number of sex stuff.
Stop it.
Anyway, I'm Max Scoville. I'm joined by Brian Altano. What?
That's no. You get a laugh this week. That's it.
And then Marty Sleva.
The official number of sex stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Either
and
you're
then,
for it or you're against it.
Yeah. And then Jared Petty.
I'm on a ship of fools and it's sinking fast.
Yeah, you're not wrong. We've got a good show lined up. Not great, okay, pretty good. I would say like good plus.
Yeah.
You know.
So that's like 7.7.
Yeah,
maybe on the iTunes scale?
It's a rent don't buy of a free podcast you can download. So first things first, we're going to talk a little bit about Uncharted 4. Marty, you had a chance to go down to LA and hang out with Naughty Dog.
Did.
And you got to check out Uncharted's survival co-op.
Yeah, which is super cool. And it's cool. I was the first person outside of Naughty Dog to play this. I guess it's like base pitch is it's like Gears of War's Horde mode / Halo's Firefight, which is a up to 3-player cooperative mode. And it's 50 waves of enemies, but it's in all these separate chunks. So it's in 5-wave chunks, which I think is really cool because you can sort of do the first 5 waves and then stop for the day and be fine, as opposed to like Gears where it's like, no, you gotta finish all 50 waves even if it takes you 4 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
cool.
they checkpointed a Horde mode, basically?
And so they checkpointed a Horde mode, and one thing I really like is that every 5 waves, it goes to a new map.
Oh.
And so over the course of the 50 waves, you play 10 different maps, and the maps are very different and totally like cater to different play styles. Like there was one called Trainwreck that was inspired by Uncharted 2. That's you're in the middle, like the train's wrecked. Titular train wreck.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
But it's a really thin and narrow and sort of tall map with not a lot of room to hide, whereas there's just giant courtyard level that is super huge and open, and like the stuff you want is in the middle, and so you're going to run out there and try to get shot.
So how does this fit into the narrative? Because I mean, if it's like Nathan Drake and like 50 dudes in a wave, and he's like, "Hey, let's take this over to the courtyard." No, like,
maybe it's like the Chrysler Building at the end of A Parasite Eve, just like whatever.
Yeah.
The
gloves are off. But no, it brings Uncharted's sort of sense of like whimsy and silliness, and especially like the multiplayer in Uncharted has always had. You can customize the characters. You can be the bad guys for the first time. You can give them just really weird dances and taunts.
Oh, that's strange.
What about like the bad guys? Is it like Joker henchmen or something, or just like Muppets or
it's like Joker henchmen, but
have you played Uncharted? I don't know if they have.
But they're bringing the supernatural, which is what there's this little pirate man behind us because every 10 waves you fight a boss, and the bosses are ghost pirates.
Okay,
and each of the ghost pirates have different abilities. And so we fought one ghost pirate who could jump in the air and throw fire at you, and another ghost pirate who moved very quickly.
Only he could do that when he was alive.
Is one of them like Captain Marbrosa? That sounds kind of like Jeffrey Rush or something.
The creator of the cigarette? Captain Marbrosa.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's super fun. The in-game economy is super great. Like you run back to your arsenal with the money you earn in a match, and you buy stuff, and you can buy like team heals, and you can buy new weapons. You can buy the mysticals. Then of course there's like the meta leveling up that every time you beat 10 waves, you get a new perk that you can sort of use. Honestly, this is a really cool, fun multiplayer mode, and like a lot of people probably played through Uncharted 4's campaign 6 months ago or whatever and then put it down, but like they've been giving a drip feed of free multiplayer updates for the past 6 months, and they're doing it into 2017, and this is completely free, and it's coming out in the middle of December.
This is sort of a nice surprise on top of that kind of multiplayer roadmap they put together, which I think they've done a really good job of sticking to. I was kind of amazed at that because I mean, not to say I have any surprise that Naughty Dog has their ish together, but a lot of other companies would just be like, "Here's what we're doing. We'll get to it when we get to it." You know, like coming soon is like the most frequently seen words when it comes to video games.
Yeah, until they just say that and they're like, oh, it's vaporware now.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's cool. And I mean, like everyone's stoked about when we're going to see the single player DLC, which there's some rumors that maybe we're going to see it at PSX.
Yeah.
One of the rumors was it's about Sam and Sully.
Yeah, and on this note, this is actually going to be playable at PSX.
Yeah,
so for anybody who's attending, you actually get to jump in and go
totally.
hands on. How many players is it?
It's up to 3. You can play it by yourself or with 2 friends, or with like 1 friend or 2 friends. If you play by yourself, you can have AI companions, or I mean, it got super tough. Like the difficulty really ramped up in the 20 waves I played. So that's definitely something I'm going to want to do with 2 people.
Yeah.
Like a
That's
little
awesome.
a little menage, if you will.
You don't
Oh
have to-
my!
How long
Goodness
do you
gracious.
think 50 ways to take to get through based on what you did there?
Only a couple hours, honestly. Yeah,
Rad.
and they get super tough. And if you're playing on like a medium difficulty, you start at the beginning of the wave. But if you're playing on crushing, you're going to start back at like the beginning of the set. So yeah,
rad.
it's gonna be tough.
And how's like ammo and guns handled? The same way as the regular game where you're picking stuff up and
Yeah,
dropping it?
you're picking stuff up, but you also, the money you earn for kills and for using your abilities and everything, you go back to your arsenal, which is like a couple drop boxes throughout the map, and then you can spend it on upgraded guns, or you can spend it on like I kept getting the El Dorado mystical and throwing out a weird mummy coffin and killing
mummy
somebody.
coffin.
It's really cool to see like an Uncharted game where he does have kind of an arsenal that he can build up and go back to.
Yeah,
I know
totally.
they mess with that with multiplayer a little bit. but
Yeah,
it's really
yeah,
cool
and then
that kinda have that.
certain like you'll have like a wave of enemies that all have these like they're super armored and have Gatling guns, and once you down them, you could pick up the Gatling gun, which is like so weird for an Uncharted game to just be like sitting there and mowing dudes down.
I love that. That feels like something Indiana Jones would do.
Totally. I love cooperative arcade experiences. I don't care if they don't make sense. This sounds Ghost Pirates versus Nathan Drake with my friends. So,
Yeah, exactly. Have it be disparate. Like, I'm totally fine with that.
Were there any like new gizmos or gadgets or abilities you saw in there that you hadn't seen before or that they pointed out to you?
No, actually not. Like there was a lot of like each level sort of utilizes the rope mechanic. He likes shooting ropes in that game. I heard.
The ropes.
Big fan of
The old
ropes.
Good old
ropes.
ropes.
Everyone likes a good rope.
I left my rope hat at my desk.
Thanks.
Oh, don't put that on your head.
But no, it pretty much takes in all the everything you saw in the single player mode, and then all the different mysticals and weird stuff that they had in the multiplayer mode.
Are you talking about the rapper mystical?
Yeah, shake your ass, watch yourself, show me what you're working with.
That really is. Those are the kind of the tenets of the survival.
Are those the
mode.
difficulty levels?
Yeah,
All right. So in addition to checking out Uncharted 4 survival mode, you also got a copy of Uncharted 4 signed
Yes.
by some of the guys who worked on it at Naughty Dog.
yeah. Caleb and I, who's on the show last week, we went down to Naughty Dog and we brought this copy with us, and we had Scott Lowe, who was showing us around, friend of the show, former IGN, go around, and he had Neil Druckmann and Evan Wells sign this. We decided that we wanted to give this away, and so yeah, if you're watching this.
So yeah, if you're watching this, this is complicated. It's very complicated because this goes out on all sorts of different platforms and things. If you're watching this in a clip form or on IGN's proper YouTube channel, go to youtube.com/IGNBeyond and find the full episode of 469 and leave a comment of your favorite Uncharted moment.
Yeah. Ooh.
And is that a thing?
Yeah, I
You
like
think
that.
that works?
Your favorite Uncharted moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we'll pick one random winner, and we will send you a copy of the game.
And if you
that is
just saw
signed.
this in clip form, you should watch the rest of the episode
Yeah.
because we made a joke about the rapper Mystical.
we sure did. It's
True.
Also
And if you're
because
watching this as a full episode, I'm sorry we brought up the Mystical thing again.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Persona 5 is delayed, and Andrew Goldfarb has been crushed. His last bit of will to live has just been sucked from his body, and that's why he's not here today.
Yeah, because he had those Valentine's Day plans
Yeah.
with him and a bunch of Japanese school students.
I guess. Did you say cool students? I
Cool
guess that
cool
works.
students.
He's gonna have to keep
cool
replaying the
girls.
Japanese version, I guess. Which
Didn't he already beat it in
Yeah,
Japanese?
he did it in Japanese.
But yeah, the game got delayed from Valentine's Day in February to April 4th, so it's only 2 months or so. And they said the reason why is because they listened to fans and they wanted to have free DLC along with the game that is the Japanese voices, which makes sense because you have that with subtitles. But the reception to what the American voices have been really negative. There's a man whose last name was Sakamoto and he pronounces his name Sakamoto.
Wow.
And
Interesting.
How do you screw that up?
I have no proof of this, but I get the feeling that they might be doing some just VO pickups and maybe recasting.
I don't know a whole lot about how video games get made, but delaying a game that's already exists with Japanese voices 2 months to include the Japanese voices as DLC.
Yeah.
I don't know if that adds
Yeah,
up, but
I am all that aside. I'm excited about playing it in Japanese. That'll
dude,
be
yeah.
fine. I really do prefer playing games when possible in native languages with subs. So this will be a lot of fun.
Probably pronounce
because,
Sakamoto correctly.
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've watched Andrew play a couple hours of it, and it looks super fun.
Yep. I still marvel that Andrew, who does not read Japanese, managed to play all the way through a JRPG the size of Persona just on sheer willpower.
Andrew and I did a 15-minute Let's Play of that game, which we couldn't put up on the YouTube page. I think we put it up for Up at Noon, where he was just kind of like, I was asking him questions about it, and he was sort of figuring it out as it went along, but filling in the blanks with stuff that he kind of wanted to be true. So it's kind of a magical way to play that game if you really can't wait until April, which is kind of a while away.
Yeah.
try that out because we were basically like walking around the high school and he was just like, I was like, why is this guy mad? And he's like, I don't know, maybe he's mad that he forgot his school lunch today.
Well,
you've
done that.
Sure?
You've done that with like soap operas in foreign languages before, right? You sit there and you kind of make up the story.
No.
You've never done this?
No.
Oh my gosh, we used to do this all the time. You sit down with friends. Yeah, you sit down with friends in college or something, and you watch a soap opera, like a Korean soap opera or a Spanish soap opera, a language that we're not particularly familiar with, and you just make the story up. As it's going. So everybody just kind of throws in a line. You sort of MST3K what's happening in the other language and make up your own plot line.
Yeah, there were hundreds of kids in my New York City art school that wanted to watch Korean soap operas. I was just never at the right place at the right time,
again,
I guess.
it's a lot more fun when there's too much booze and it's very, very late.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
you can do that to this
story.
show, actually, if you don't listen to this language. You can just think anything you want that we're saying right now. Anything you want.
I remember I used to watch a lot of Japanese soap operas when I was living there. My Japanese is very poor, so I often didn't know what was going on. But I remember once two women are having a very intense discussion about what I think was one of them having an affair. And one of them, in the middle of this conversation on a daytime soap, suddenly throws like her face down into the crotch of the other woman and sniffs deeply and then pulls back up and goes and looks at her like, oh, like you just had sex. And I still don't understand.
Are we allowed to talk about this on this show?
I don't know either. But that's something that I saw on daytime television in Japan.
Wow, Peggy 18.
I think there's an R. Kelly song about that.
That's wow. Okay.
So
just really jerking the wheel hard here.
Don't say jerk.
Just really pulling the car over to the side of the road and just making getting the car going the other direction on the street. Honestly. Lego City Undercover is coming to PS4 and Xbox One and Nintendo Switch next year. Brian,
a wonderful game for children of all ages.
What is this game?
Lego City Undercover is a open world GTA style game for children of all ages. Basically the same ages that you see in a box of Legos, which I think is like 4 to 99.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
sorry, Centennials.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Old enough not to choke on tiny pieces of plastic.
Yeah, it stars this guy. I believe his name's Chase. He's an undercover cop, and he can dress as different characters in the same way that if you've ever played a Lego game before, where you can kind of switch between different powers and different characters. Chase can kind of do all those things himself, which I really love because he goes undercover as different things like a fireman and like an astronaut or whatever, and he can actually interact with the world.
I feel like going undercover as an astronaut is a bad move.
Yeah.
You have to be very specialized for that.
So it's very interesting to play an open world GTA style Lego game because Chase, when he needs a car, he's just like, excuse me, I'm very sorry. Can I borrow your car? He's not just like, get out of the car. Like, he's just like, oh my God, I'm so sorry about this. It's really great. The collectibles are really fun. Yeah. The biggest problem with this thing, number one, it was on the Nintendo Wii, which means no one played it. The Wii U, which means no one played it. And number two, the load times between areas in this world were like, they were like 90 seconds to 2 minutes long at times. And it was just like, it almost killed it for me. But it was the kind of thing where I was just like, all right, I'll put up with this because it's such an adorable game.
Yeah. It also has a really great story. Like the story, the writing, and the performances are really funny. It's sort of like the Lego movie.
Yeah. I remember seeing a bit where it was like a Shawshank Redemption parody. And I'm like, this is a children's game, but is it?
Yeah, that was one of the really cool things about it. It was just like sort of peppered with really interesting movie references and TV show references and like pop culture references all over the game. It's sort of a mishmash of San Francisco and a bunch of other major cities. So there is a Golden Gate Bridge. Flying vehicles in this game are super fun. Blowing stuff up is super fun. Like collecting cars and doing high-speed chases with robbers and stuff like that. Just really, really awesome game. If you're looking for like, you're probably like a little fatigued in open world games, but like I genuinely feel like this one is so different than all the other ones you've played that you're gonna really love it. Like it's really cool to play like a lighthearted open world game. Yeah. I haven't really had a game like this since what was it? What was that Simpsons game? Was it Hit and Run? Yeah. Where I was just
Hit
like,
and Run was really fun.
Yeah, where I'm like, it's an open world game, but it doesn't take itself too seriously. It's not like you don't really get in like 5-star police chases like you would in Watch Dogs or Mafia.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, you might have open world fatigue, which I totally get, but there aren't a ton of open world games on the near horizon. Except for Horizon.
I mean, it's also the fact that if you play games with kids, then this is a fun one to introduce them to the genre. I wonder why there aren't so many. I mean, I guess because open world is such a kind of an ambitious process that they want to be like, let's shoot for the big leagues here. Let's go for the people who have $60, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like little by little we've seen and we'll continue to see a lot of the Wii U games have slowly made their way on the PS4. You look at Zombie U, which was a launch game, made its way to PS4 for $20, and it's totally cool. Like you strip away the second screen functionality, and lo and behold, they still totally work. It's almost like that was always a bad idea to begin with.
No, it's reminiscent of what happened when Saturn flopped. Eventually, most of those games made their way over to PlayStation.
Yeah.
Not all of them.
Like,
but
it would be
most of them.
great. I mean, legally it probably can't happen, but to see stuff like Wonderful 101 or Bayonetta like show up on PS4.
Yeah, I would absolutely love that. I don't know what sort of exclusivity deals they dealt with stuff like that, but Lego City Undercover.
If you just tear up your contract, it's fine.
Oh yeah, that's literally how it works. Lego City Undercover had its second screen functionality for like it was so hokey. It was just like a map and there was like a horn that you could. It was like
It was for babies.
Yeah, it was for babies,
little baby kids.
But a really cool thing about this too, I mean, I love actual tangible physical Legos. They made a bunch of sets based off of this, which are really cool because it's got Chase Mitchell and his undercover cop thing, and you've got this like cop, this like speedy car he's in that has like a robber in it with like money flying out of the back. I just love that. Like he's that much of a disastrous bank robber that his money's getting everywhere.
I've always loved like the Lego properties that weren't like the ones that are in-house. I don't like the Ninjago or the Chima stuff.
Yeah, me too.
But like the classic stuff where it was just space or like castle. And like Lego City was always kind of like, that's, I feel like the one that's been going the longest uninterrupted. And it's weird because I'll go to like Target or something. I'll go to the Lego aisle and I'll be like, oh, I got Rogue One sets. Oh, there's, you know, DC superheroes. And I look over and it's like, there's an entire line that's all about like Lego cops.
Yeah.
And they're like, this guy blew up an ATM and like this guy apparently has a meth lab in a swamp and they gotta get dogs to chase. And they all have dogs. They got like police dogs.
And so this game lets you actually play moments like that, which is really funny because you're like, if you actually take away all the sort of visual medium of it, the art direction, and you drill down into what you're actually doing, you're like, oh, a bunch of people try to rob a farm and I had to show up and kill them. Like it's really dark, but it really leans into like Max, like you were saying, the sort of classic, like that space theme, the sort of like outdoorsy, like kind of truck driver theme. Like there's like the farmland area is weird because there's pigs everywhere. They really love putting those pigs in those games.
Those games are so funny. Like they're so weird. And I'm kind of tired of them being like on brand.
Yeah.
You know, like Star Wars is fine, but I got to a point where I was like, all right, you know, and this is something I don't, it's a new story, you know, it's an original thing. So
it's also a chance. It's a game that didn't get much of a chance getting a new lease on life. And anytime you get that happens, it's a wonderful thing for
I
gamers.
love when that happens.
I do too. So many things just lost to history forever. Now an entirely new group of people is going to
I really wish like there was an entire third party dedicated to that, to going through consoles from this generation and last generation and being like, let's look at the best rated games that sold the least amount of copies and figure out how to get them off of light support.
I
mean, that's how I feel like. I felt like so many people slept on Sunset Overdrive on the Xbox One. And I'm like, bring that over to PS4. Like people will take that with open arms.
And this is the problem though with like exclusivity deals, is that like they're almost always sort of disastrous for people who just want to play video games. Like it kind of sucks. I think that Sunset Overdrive coming to PS4, like I would love a pro patch for that game. Just put it on like in 4K.
Yeah, looking how gorgeous Ratchet and Clank looks.
Right, or look at Infamous.
But
right,
then there's a matter of cost. That's the other end of it. I mean, you know, just how much it would cost to go back to those assets and redo all of that.
It's just right-click, save as, .ps4.
Yeah.
Easy peasy, dude.
But I want it to happen.
you just got to get an XB1 to PS4 converter.
Yep.
They're free. You just have to listen to a weird MIDI jingle when you install it. So speaking of games that maybe didn't sell so well, Titanfall 2 and Watch Dogs 2 are apparently kind of underperforming, or at least they scored better than originals, but they sold less than the first ones.
Yeah, this is heartbreaking, honestly. Like I'll be completely honest with you, like it's devastating to me because it's like we live in an era where like many times, and just some of us have together gone to the theaters to do this, we've seen like the worst movies perform the best over great movies that perform the worst. This case scenario, this case scenario, it's sort of different because it's just like, all right, Transformers movies are kind of trashy fun. I can give them that, right? But there are other movies that are way worse that keep doing better and better, and I think it's because of brand recognition and sequels. But with Titanfall and Watch Dogs, if you look at the original iterations of those games, they were built on a lot of promise and hope. And idealism that I think didn't totally pan out for most gamers. Titanfall, excellent game with a sort of like thin premise, and then ultimately, if you didn't stick around for multiplayer, there really wasn't a lot to do there. Watch Dogs, different story entirely. It started the whole like Ubisoft's a bunch of liars thing, which I don't buy into. Just sort of like the bull shots and getting hoodwinked by the E3 gameplay versus what you're actually playing thing. So I think people got burned by those things, and as a reaction to that, Respawn and Ubisoft sat down and said, let's take these IPs and let's make the best games we can possibly make out of them. And they did.
And they listened to feedback.
They did.
And everyone in Titanfall 1 was like, I want a campaign. And so they're like, here you go, an awesome campaign. Everyone in Watch Dogs 1 is like, hey, don't reveal your game this early and then lighten it up a little bit.
Make a more fun protagonist, make a more fun city.
Although in the case of Watch Dogs, they might have carried that a little too far on the other end. I'm glad they listened, and they've done some really neat things. But I've been walking around the office watching people play Watch Dogs. And
who watches the Watch Dogs?
Yeah,
Jared.
The moment I saw a guy with glowy mask face, I'm like, nah,
Okay,
nah,
Wrench,
dude, I am never.
Wrench is dumb, but you play you forgive it because that game. I'm probably having the most fun I've had with an open world game.
No, I'm
this generation.
getting echoes of Far Cry 3 in that I pretty much abhor the people in it, and the story is like nonsense. But I kind of almost embrace it more because of that, because I'm making it my own story. I mean, Jen's been watching me play, and she's like, I have no interest in that game, and I'm like, I mean, you could say that like looking at Tetris. Like she plays 3s constantly, and I'm like, I don't know how to play that game, so I don't really. It doesn't look appealing to me.
Yeah,
it doesn't click.
You have
you know?
one 3, have sex with another 3, and it makes a 6.
No, I mean Watch Dogs 2 is awesome. That's undeniable,
Sextants.
right? Like it's undeniable that this is a great game. It's getting good scores everywhere. What I don't understand here is sort of as gamers, and we're all guilty of this, our inability to sort of forgive a franchise for wronging us once. And I don't know how we move on past that. And I understand video games are expensive, and this is the time of year where you're like, I got to give my money to somebody, and it's got
so
so
that's it.
places.
I have another theory here on this. Okay, so I think everything you're saying has merit. I really do. I do think we should give games second chances, and I do think people listened. But this year has been a tremendous year for video games. One of the best in my lifetime, honestly. There have been so many wonderful games, and that means there is so much competition in this marketplace right now. And yes, I can go buy Watch Dogs 2, and I can go, but I look out there and I see 40 other wonderful games that all came out this year. And I'm not exaggerating when I say 40
but I mean,
that I could be buying right now.
I'm totally with you, but I think the first Watch Dogs launched in the same climate. It launched in the fall.
It launched in the fall.
So let's back
It
this
was a
up.
Big game.
Was it a
not
big
only
game?
that, but
Okay. I stand corrected. I'm totally sorry.
so
So what I was going to point out real quick was that, hold on one second. The sales are down 80% for this game. 80%. Like that's not just like oops. That's like people are just are allergic to this thing. Like that's a big drop. What were you going to say?
I was going to say the other thing we're not counting is the install base and the size of the library. Like both Titanfall and Watch Dogs were not exactly. I don't think they were exactly launched, but they were very close to launch.
It was like I think within the first
Titanfall was a few months, and then Watch Dogs would have been, but then it got pushed until May or whatever.
Yeah.
But because of that, I think that people were like, "What do I play?" There was that weird point in 2013 when new boxes came out, and everyone's like, "All right, what do I get?"
Yeah.
You know,
I agree.
Those were also cross-platform games. Like people were playing them on 360.
I agree with that. I think on the flip side, like if you have 50 million PS4s in the wild, that's all the more people that you can sort of infiltrate with a game like this.
Yeah.
It just kind of bums me out. I think
there's also the fact that there's more people who have been hyping up stuff like, Uncharted 4, The Last of Us, or somebody goes out and they get a PS4, like Watch Dogs 2 is fun, Titanfall 2 is fun, but like it's not going to be the top of your list of a game you'd recommend. So that, if they're like, hey, I just bought a PS4, what do I go buy?
Everyone's going to say like Uncharted, Bloodborne.
There's like 10 things you would say first.
But then perhaps the thing to say right now is, in the midst of all this, if you can afford these good games, play them. Maybe
buy
that
Watch
should be the
Dogs
message,
2. Like if I have to be the guy that gets up and says that, like, I'll be your friend on the couch. It's like buy Watch Dogs 2. I think a major thing too is that if you look at Titanfall was directly affected by Battlefield 1 and Call of Duty, right? Mm-hmm. I truly believe that Watch Dogs was directly affected by Mafia 3. I think having open world crime games with a black protagonist within a month of each other is kind of a thing that people were like, I don't know. And I think a lot of people kind of felt a little burned on Mafia 3. I know it was the second best-selling game of MPD last month.
Yeah, and it was the fastest-selling 2K game.
Yeah, like by all means, it's a hit, and the reviews were kind of mixed all over the place. Watch Dogs were a lot more positive. IGN's not so much, which, I'm not totally 100. I stand behind because I work for us,
IGN, that guy IGN, the one guy named IGN, he's a fussy reviewer.
Dan Stapleton's review at IGN, I didn't completely agree with, because I'm actually having a ton of fun with this game. It's probably my game of the year, honestly.
Wow.
On a strictly gameplay level, I think that this is Watch Dogs 2 is this year's Metal Gear Solid 5 in terms of being able to tackle a scenario as creatively and as dramatically different as possible. Each time I'm finding myself replaying missions just because I'm just like, I can handle this completely differently.
Well, how about this? Based on what I saw of the first game, plus some of the buzz that I got around to the office from it initially, plus the silly man with the face, I never gave it a chance. I'll go play it now.
Yeah.
So you convinced me.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, it is a puzzle game that has disguised itself as an action game.
Oh wait, it's a puzzle game?
I mean, sort of. Yeah.
There's like puzzle elements.
Okay.
Like there's stuff where you're like, I'm not just shooting dudes.
Ah.
Yeah.
And like there's stealthy stuff, but it's
More Zelda-ish in terms of that? Is that
yeah.
when you say
Marty and I
puzzle?
were talking
Yeah.
about how you can level up stuff all around your sort of like skill tree wheel kind of thing, and one of them is guns, and I haven't touched that. I fire a gun once every maybe 5 hours in that
Yeah.
game.
Okay.
You know?
This game is also.
I
just,
like that.
This game's rife for like coming in the morning and telling stories about the crazy stuff you did.
Oh yeah, totally.
Well, so
I love.
EA said straight up that they're going to continue to support the Titanfall franchise for years, to which Vince Zampella responded, whatever the F that means, which I find hilarious.
It's gonna be Vince.
Side note, it's really interesting that guy's game went up against his original game, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 Remastered, which came out within 2 weeks. But Ubisoft hasn't said really anything so far about whether or not we're going to get Watch Dogs games for years to come. You'd have to imagine that one's already in the works, because I think they expected this one to do really well. But I read an interesting thing from Jason over at Kotaku saying that like they were able to tell based on traffic that stories were getting on their website how well something would sell. And Final Fantasy 15 is one of the most trafficked things right now. Watch Dogs 2 was kind of lukewarm with the audience, so we'll see.
Yeah, you saying if people are willing to forgive? I was trying to think examples. I feel like Final Fantasy 15 is going to be a big thing.
Yeah.
Are people going to be
Yeah.
willing to forgive sort of
Yeah.
the Lightning trilogy and the development of this game? But also, I feel like the best example of that is Tomb Raider, because Tomb
Yeah.
Raider went into a
Yeah.
super funk. And then all of a sudden the reboot came out and it was like, oh, this is great. Super funk.
I
My
think
favorite
people,
genre of music.
Yeah, I think with Tomb Raider, people were so easily able to identify that this was just a brand new thing. Like
Yeah.
they completely rebooted the character model and everything. This just feels like, I think people looked at this and they're like, "Where's Aiden? Is Aiden in this game? I hated Aiden."
I mean, it's all you get back to the numbering convention of games, and what does that tell you? I mean, something like Battlefield 1, it's like very clearly that's not the first Battlefield game, but there's something kind of like,
Yeah.
here's a fresh start, and like Tomb Raider was Tomb Raider, and I mean, it's odd because, you know, historically sequels to games are improvements.
Yeah.
Like there's all these classic games that are like 2s or 3s.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
because it's an iterative medium, whereas like that's not the case with movie sequels.
Yeah.
Like they frequently are out of ideas, whereas stuff that they build in the first, I mean, look at Uncharted 4. It's
Yeah,
like it's
seriously.
Uncharted 2 is like I think my favorite in the series. And it's by that logic, you're like, oh, like that must be the Uncharted 1 must be awesome, and you go back and you're like, it pales in comparison.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And I mean, we were talking about, is Watch Dogs 2 going to be like Assassin's Creed 2,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
it revisits the kind of same concept but expands and improves? And I think
Which
it is. But
I'm so glad you brought that up, because if you look at like the sales of Assassin's Creed 1 to Assassin's Creed 2, like that's a franchise that kept growing and then eventually kind of stalled out and pulled back a little bit. We really thought the same thing would happen with Watch Dogs, and I think that people were like, they were less so like, oh, this is going to be like a way better version of the first one, and they were more so like, Watch Dogs is a tainted name in my head, and it's sour to me now.
How much do you think it has to do with, you talked about Aiden, you know, you went from a grumpy, unlikable man, and they did listen, but then they created a bunch of happy, unlikable people. I mean, is it?
I would say that Marcus is very likable.
Okay.
I think
Marcus
he's
is
a very
charming.
likable.
So Marcus
does
is
like a little-
okay.
he
It's
does
just the
like a
people
little-
around Marcus that are difficult.
Well, I would say that a handful of people around Marcus are unlikable, but the fact that you, as Marcus, can take down even more unlikable people in the game, like the antagonists in this game are great people to take down.
Oh,
the
that's
fake,
delightful.
The fake Google that you like get into in Silicon Valley in this game called Noodle is fantastic.
Yeah.
Like the way they skewer sort of like
Martin Shkreli.
Martin Shkreli, like the way they skewer like sort of internet culture and like startup culture in the Bay Area specifically. And I don't know if that's because I'm in my little sad liberal bubble here, but I think it's just awesome. Like there's so much unlikable stuff in San Francisco that they take down in this game.
that was my favorite part of GTA 5 was the mission where you infiltrated what
I
announced
don't.
to
You'll
Facebook.
probably like Watch Dogs 2.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think
all
they
right,
one upped a lot of that mission. That was one of my favorite missions as well.
All right.
Yeah. So on the subject of dogs and open world games, we got some very sad news that Sleeping Dogs 2 is totally not a thing that's happening anymore. That should be obvious because United Front Games very quietly, without even a whimper, kind of shut its doors, which is a bummer because Sleeping Dogs, the first one, is one of my favorite open world games. That was my game of the year it came out. I love that game.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic, it's kind of short, not crazy ambitious or, mind blowing, but it's a really fun, cool crime game.
And its open world's really cool too.
Yeah. And it kind of assumed, I think the last time I saw somebody from United Front Games, they were working on combat for one of the expansions for Disney Infinity, which also went under. And I was like, as the guy was leaving, I was like, so Sleeping Dogs 2? And he's like, and then just kind of like did the Homer backing to the hedge thing. But yeah, so Patrick Klepek over at Waypoint wrote this wonderful thing about basically what Sleeping Dogs 2 would have been.
Yeah, you got these design docs.
Crazy ambitious. A lot of stuff you kind of look at now and you're like, I can see why that didn't pan out.
Yeah.
It's old enough that they were referring to PS4 and Xbox One as Orbis and Durango, respectively. Remember those old chestnuts? But it was going to take place in the Pearl City Delta, which is sort of this mega city sprawl in China, which has a lot of neon. I was looking at pictures of it online. It's would have been a really cool place to screw around.
Pacific Rim.
Yeah. And then basically there would be a kind of dynamic shifting thing where how you played your game would affect other people's games.
Right.
Yeah, that got me so excited reading that part of it. And again, these are design docs. A lot of things go into design docs that never come to fruition. So we don't know how. But yeah, this idea that like as you went to different neighborhoods and did things in your game, it would keep track of your save, but it also keep track of the millions of other saves that and what was happening in other people's cities, and that would dynamically affect what was happening across people's experiences and kind of this behind the curtain Dark Soulsy way.
Yeah, I mean, it sounded like a massive multiplayer online nemesis system.
Yeah.
Like it sounds like all the stuff you were doing would just...
It sounded to me like Dark Souls meets Mule, which is everything I want in life. Mule.
I'm really happy to have you on to bring up Mule.
Wow.
Yeah, no, Mule's such a great game, but it was all about like a bunch of people together, and you kind of had to work together, but you could constantly screw each other over.
Yeah.
And I feel like some stuff would have come out of that because one, people would have figured out a way to grief, which would have been delightful.
Of course.
Any opportunity to break the game, I love when there's community involved. But second, the fact that you're seeing reflections of what people are doing in their world and your own. Those opportunities when they are subtly implemented as opposed to blatantly implemented can be some of the most exciting and energizing moments in video games. I really wish that I'd gotten a chance to do this.
So on top of that, it was also going to kind of do a similar thing to what GTA 5 did, where you were going to have two protagonists and you were going to switch between them. You were going to play as Wei Shen, who was the character in the first game. Really likable protagonist.
Yeah, he was
really,
awesome.
Really charming. And then this other guy who was like a corrupt cop who he had to work with. And basically
really cool.
you guys could arrest like any NPC in the game. And I don't know how that would have worked, but yeah, like
then
you
like
could,
Lego, just like, excuse me, sir, I need to arrest you now.
I mean, I don't know if it'd be one of those things where you wind up like, oh wait, my partner's the last boss. What the hell? You know, like I don't know what it would have been, but
that's so good.
It was a really cool idea, and it was kind of this weird layer of metagame where you know, on top of the online stuff and your city being dynamically affected, it was also you were affecting your own game by how you played your game. It sounded crazy ambitious, and it seems like some of the ideas got recycled for Triad Wars, which was the very not great free-to-play PC game, which pretty much just took Sleeping Dogs 1 and
that was a tough one. That was I wasn't happy when that happened because that was like, hey, I love that franchise. Well, what if it was this now?
Yeah.
Put Sleeping Dogs on the same plate as LMNO and the Forgotten Games of you.
Yeah, that's true. I believe was Sleeping Dogs a PlayStation Plus game recently, a couple months ago? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I noticed, and we're cheating on our show here, but it's on Xbox Live Games with Gold this month.
Yeah, for December. So the Xbox One version of the game is going to be free. For December.
It was remastered, so you can go play that.
Holds up really well.
Have you guys done that?
It
like looks really good.
Definitive collection.
Yeah.
It also is like the kind of the whole game of the year full package bundle thing. You can probably find a Black Friday sale or a used copy for something stupid cheap for PS4. It comes with Terror at North Point, I think, which is this awesome kind of undead nightmare approach, except you're fighting like hopping Chinese vampires, and the whole thing opens as a wonderful like montage to Thriller and Big Trouble in Little China. So if you're interested in hokey 80s stuff, get on that. It's really cool.
That made me so happy.
I really enjoyed that game. Also, that is the only video game where you can take Emma Stone on a date for what it's worth.
Oh, okay.
That's a thing.
Challenge
you do
accepted.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on. SEGA Japan released a survey asking fans which franchise they would want to return.
Yeah.
I love when publishers do this because we all get excited and we're like, oh, what if they did this? And then they wind up doing something you didn't want. But, you know, like in the meantime, let's just talk about what we'd want to see SEGA revitalize.
So I adore the Sega Dreamcast. So I think all three of mine are coming from the Dreamcast. Those are Skies of Arcadia, Jet Set Radio, and Power Stone. Skies of Arcadia was such a rad RPG that ended up getting a GameCube port?
It did, GameCube port.
Yeah.
Yes.
Skies of Arcadia Legends, I think. That was about sort of airship pirates, but it had this amazing base building mechanic where you gathered characters from throughout the world and they would go back to your hideout and your hideout would grow, like sort of a Suikoden thing. Like, I always love that.
It's a Reiko Kodama joint, right? Yeah,
absolutely. And then Jet Set Radio. Obviously, we got a second one on Xbox, Jet Set Radio Future, but that's just an amazing game about weird Japanese future punks.
Yeah, that got remastered, didn't it?
That got remastered. Yeah, and it got released digitally. And everything.
But you could finally go back in time and take Dragula out of it. And
add more Dragula.
You talked about Sunset Overdrive before. I feel like that's the closest we've gotten to a Jet Set game in a while.
Yeah, the feeling of grinding on a power line in Sunset Overdrive is what it felt like in Jet Set. And then Power Stone was sort of the only 4-player party fighting game to ever match Smash in my mind.
It was superb.
Like, the multiplayer was awesome. The levels would terraform halfway through, and the character was really cool. So
it felt kind of like you were playing like if anybody ever made like a Marvel version of Smash Brothers, that's what it would have felt like was Power Stone.
Yeah.
I only have one, Super Monkey Ball. I don't know what happened with that franchise. It's actually really weird because it started out amazing. Super Monkey Ball 2 on the GameCube, the first two came to GameCube, was one of the best sequels of that video game ever made. Yeah. And then it just shattered. Like
you don't like the Wii ones at all?
Well, no, I think the Wii ones got like everyone got lost on the control schemes, and they basically became touchscreen games or tilting games or like waggle games. They became like weird party mini game collections. Like I saw like some Monkey Ball like Match 3 thing that they made a couple years ago, and it was just like. It's actually tragic to watch a franchise go from like, this is great, this is even better, this is garbage for 10 years. So that's the only one. Aside from that, honestly, and I was a Genesis kid on top of being a Super Nintendo and a PlayStation kid. I don't really have as much nostalgia for Sega Genesis as other people do. I don't really think a lot of those games are great.
It did what Nintendo.
I beg to differ. I think the Sega Genesis was a great system.
Did you have one?
I'm just kidding. No, I did have a lot of favorites though from it. There's just I think there's a lot of stuff that kind of aesthetically was really pleasing. Going back, like I love Kid Chameleon back there, as you can kind of tell by how I've styled my entire life. It was literally a game about being a punk ass kid who got sucked into VR and then went around trying on different hats. It's actually kind of similar to Assassin's Creed if you stop and think about it. You're just you're like, oh, I'm gonna travel through history with different hats.
That Shinobi dude was his uncle.
But yeah, like I would love to see Kid Chameleon get like a crazy, like I feel like in this kind of nostalgia fueled post Blood Dragon, Double Dragon Neon sort of era, like people would be really down to see something hokey like that. On top of that, Comic Zone was super cool. That was before we knew what like cell shading was. That wasn't really a thing then, but the idea is sort of similar where you're like, oh, it's a platformer where you're going through comic panels.
Yeah, I always remember him like hopping over to the next panel. That was so cool.
It was a cool idea. Playing the game was not fun.
No.
But it was like
that's a lot of Genesis games.
Yeah,
honestly.
the presentation was really cool.
But I think he had a ponytail, but don't do that.
Yeah, no, he didn't look cool.
That would be like a man bun or a
no
top,
one wants a ponytail.
A top knot.
He looked like that conspiracy theorist guy from Steven Universe, but yeah, like Comic Zone would be cool. I mean, we got like Comic Jumper, which kind of like scratched that a little bit, but it was like a little bit, I don't know, off the mark. But it'd be so cool to see something like that. Maybe have it go through different types of comics because comics are bigger than ever right now.
Oh, even Manja?
Yeah, Manja. Yeah, Manja, the Italian eatings comics. Eternal Champions is a very bad fighting game that I have a very soft spot for. I'd love to see those characters just show up in something else. Like if you're gonna. I don't know. Does Sega have a fighting game series now?
No, I feel like they could get on the phone with Microsoft and put a couple of those old turds in Killer Instinct.
I'd be okay with that.
Eternal Champions.
Give me you're tired, you're poor, and just bring them all into Killer Instinct.
Primal Rage 8.
Eternal Champions is the most delightful
Chaos,
choice.
The monkey.
Too. I mean, I remember I had a comic book, and on the back it had an Eternal Champions ad, and it was like, look at the size of these characters. A wimp like Ryu wouldn't have a chance. I remember reading that and thinking, oh, this.
Capcom's like, bye.
Yeah, I just like, no, I know this game is bad.
And then of course, just Seaman.
Oh yeah,
Seaman, that fish, that talking fish.
Oh, Semen?
Semen? Jared, get the ropes hat.
Get that Leonard Nimoy. Who would replace Leonard Nimoy in a new Seaman?
Leonard Nimoy's son looks just like him.
Yeah, but we need the voice. We need the voice, not the face. So
oh, you know what? I just realized it doesn't matter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just want a talking fish game.
Seaman VR,
dude. Like Seaman Mobile would be great. Just have like a pocket fish and be like, oh, what are you doing today, Mr. Fish Guy? And be like,
you want to explain that at a bar? Like, hey, what are you doing? I'm just playing Seaman.
I think Seaman VR is a great idea. It could be called Seaman in Your Face.
Okay, so the holidays are coming up, and with them, a lot of sales.
So, Jared, did we get
the Awesome Bear PS4 theme is a whopping.
Jared didn't get to talk about his thing.
Oh yeah, sorry. God. Okay. Here's what I literally wrote in the notes. Jared probably wants some weird-ass ancient Japan-only Saturn port of an MSX2 RTS spinoff from the creators of Nobunaga's Ambition or some swear word. And then he wrote, yeah, that's pretty accurate. So go ahead. What do you got?
I got a couple.
Of course you do.
So Valkyria Chronicles is my favorite SEGA game. We just had a remaster not too long ago. I'd love to see a legit good continuation of that series back in a mainline console and see it get just a wonderful treatment.
Advice from Skies of Arcadia, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. There we go. Skies of Arcadia crossover. Wonderful. But yeah, that's a marvelous tactical game, RPG.
Really good.
Good story. Wonderfully put together. And one of the just still looks great. Stunningly beautiful. Choo Choo Rocket, which is one of the best like couch party games ever.
So how do you bring that one back? Do you want it in first person?
No, I don't. I want Choo Choo Rocket. I just want a sequel that's designed for like. Honestly, I want it on the Switch.
Really?
So I can take it to parties and just Karen my way in and be like, "Hey, it's 4 people. And we're playing Choo Choo Rocket." And I think
pull a Karen.
Yeah,
from the
pull a
commercial?
Karen. And you could very quickly. You could mix it up a little bit. That psychotic cat chasing those mice around. You understand Choo Choo Rocket in like 30 seconds, but it doesn't get boring because it switches up so fast.
Have you played a lot of like third-person stuff in VR? Because I think that would be awesome. Like if you could rotate the
You're
table.
looking down at like the Choo Choo Rocket.
Choo Choo Rocket VR would be really cool.
Oh, that could be really cool. I hadn't thought about that. That's a really good idea because I like third-person VR stuff. The best VR stuff I've played has been third-person.
What if they made it like just incredibly realistic? Like they threw it in like CryEngine and they had like a real cat that comes out and it's got like hair coming off it.
There is no
and
real cat.
It catches the mice and it's all ripping it apart.
I love that.
No, I think it was Tycho from Penny Arcade who said there is no more visceral creature in video gaming than that cat. Like that cat is the most evil thing. I mean, it's a cat that goes into a rocket full of mice and eats them all and they scream.
It's pretty rough.
I kind of just want Alien, but with like where the cat. Is that a mod for Alien Isolation where it just replaces all the humans with mice and the alien with a cat?
That'd be amazing.
I'd like that game.
I'd play that game.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do a big guess and say that's not a mod.
I think it should be. I think that's a good idea for a mod, and I think that someone should do it.
And then a couple more here. Thunder Force. Shooters are not particularly a big deal anymore. But Thunder Force, yeah, shoot 'em ups. Like Thunder Force 6, which was a PS2 game, was really good. The Thunder Force series was some of the best horizontal shooters ever. And I'd like to see somebody make another one. What
about Thunder Horse?
Thunder Horse.
What about Thunder Thighs?
I mean, those are two very different things.
Okay.
A couple more. Monster World. Monster World 4 is a great Metroidvania, and since we're not going to get another Metroid game from Nintendo anytime soon, I'll take a Monster World 4.
Coming out?
Not that I know of. No.
If there is,
I'd like to know.
That up.
Okay, there we go. Reiko Kodama, you mentioned Skies of Arcadia. I want a new Phantasy Star game. Yep. Same designer, Phantasy Star 4, one of the great RPGs of its era. And then PSO games don't count. PSO's fine, but I want a new mainline Phantasy Star game. And
Jared, I'm so excited for your last one.
Yep, my last one is so SEGA owns Atlas. I want a new Trauma Center game.
Yeah,
so bad. And some
cool Trauma Center games are awesome.
Yeah,
I'm with Max and also making this as gritty and realistic as possible. It kind of looked like a cartoon Japanese operation game back in the day. Yeah. But I think like getting it off the Nintendo Wii, putting it on the PS4 with the power of the Pro. Blood everywhere. Yeah, just real guts, real time.
Real guts?
Yeah, parents crying in the other room.
My son!
Oh, Marty had an idea before the show that VR would be interesting for Trauma Center.
God, I don't know if I could handle that.
Yeah, I think
that'd be really nasty.
But I don't know if I can handle it, says the guy who wanted Seaman in the face.
See, I'm not. It doesn't mean I want to.
And that's what I got.
Anyway, the holidays are just around the corner, and the great news is there's all kinds of great sales coming your way. For those of you who have a PS4 with no theme on it, great news, because there's the Awesome Bear PS4 theme is a whole 5 cents off through January.
And I just bought it.
What is this theme?
The Awesome Bear, it's just a picture of a giant grizzly bear, like a photograph of a grizzly bear in the background of your PS4.
You paid 94 cents for a JPEG of a bear.
Yes, it's the only PS4 theme I have ever purchased.
It dropped to 94?
It's 5 cents less.
I've been waiting for so long for this thing. 99 cents was too much for this damn bear.
That's it, but 94, now's the time.
Exactly.
So Awesome Bear, I recommend it highly to anyone. I hope that Awesome Bear sales spike. Let's impress the good people at the PlayStation Store.
Does the bear move?
No, he just sits there.
It's an awesome bear, not a dynamic bear.
Yeah, that's dynamic bear. That's a different one. Also, if you like slide the screen up, he becomes a black and white bear from a different angle.
Also, if you ever want to have a really good laugh with some friends, go in the PS4 theme store because it's just terrible in there.
Oh, yeah, it's a wreck.
There's one where it's just like, oh, what's this? It's cool guns, and it's just like guns in the background just firing off constantly. You're like,
yeah.
I mean, if you're into guns, that's fine, but like. as a background noise. That's
I feel
not
like
really...
there should be an entire drop down like subcategory for Juggalo themes on there because there's really a lot of them. It's just like Fago 69 presents 420 911.
I mean, it's like the theme store is like going into a Halloween Express on
Yeah.
like November 5th. You're just like, oh, what's happening here? You transformed back.
We talked about this before. There's no cops in the theme store. I mean, there's probably a cops theme, but there's no police who are like, we got to make sure this theme is not getting. It's like Max and I found a bunch that were like $7 each that are like it's just like a I don't know, like a sheep that looks sick.
There's one that's just like a deconstructed hamburger.
Cool Dog 2:
like-
The Return.
Horny lowriders. World War II airplane with cherries on them. Why?
That said, Awesome Bear is truth in advertising.
Yeah.
And
I'm glad that bear theme
support that.
delivers.
And,
Also,
you
I'm
know,
glad we
this-
spent time in the show just to discuss the Awesome Bear theme.
Yeah, absolutely. But there
official-
are like good things, right?
Yeah, official PS4 theme of Podcast Beyond.
Okay, but there are also better things.
Yeah,
on
no,
sale.
I'm just kidding. So we are just around the corner from Black Friday. By the time this episode goes up, it'll be
Rest in peace, America.
Thanksgiving.
What?
Yeah.
Do you not know what Black Friday is?
A lot of people die on Black Friday.
So yeah, Black Friday is the
Hundreds are killed by Vizio TVs every Black Friday.
we deliver
You make that joke and somebody's going to die next week. You're going to feel real bad.
burn
Hey,
offering
no,
for
I'm predicting
America's
it's going to
economy.
happen. I'm preemptively not feeling bad.
Okay. Anyway, there is a sale on the PlayStation Store. You can go on there and buy some stuff for a real good bargain.
Yeah.
Jared, what should people get?
The things I'm going to pick up, or the things I recommend picking up, Mega Man Legacy Collection's half off right now. That's a wonderful collection of the first 6 Mega Man games with really high quality emulation / simulation. It's technical anyway. It's fun. That's a great game. And
Say stimulation?
emulation and simulation. Yeah, they did a really cool thing.
There's
To
also-
they did a lot of stuff to make that game look really great on PS4.
There's a bunch of really good bonus features in that too. Like there's like making of art and like concept galleries.
Oh
and
yeah,
like
the museum alone's worth it. But yeah, it's like $750 next week. So and then I Am Setsuna is going to be marked way down next week. So if you missed that, go play
A
that.
fun classic 16-bit throwback JRPG.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was a lot of words.
Marty?
Journey. Jared put that down for me. He was very nice.
Yeah.
Journey's 40% off. It's $15, and it's still remains probably my favorite game of the last 5-10 years.
Yeah, it had dropped, I believe, to like $7 or $5 very briefly a couple months ago, and I put a post in the Beyond group, and I was kind of surprised at how many people hadn't tried it yet.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Is this game good?" And I'm like, "Oh, dude, like, just don't read anything, just jump in, play it. It's $7. I promise you'll come out of this thing very happy."
There's
about
a reason that people talk about it constantly.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like obviously that can set you up for disappointment, but it's like it's something different and special. Also worth noting, the prices we're listing might totally change. They might go down. It might be less if you've got PS Plus.
Yeah.
I wanted to throw Witcher 3 Complete Edition, which I think is $30, not counting PS Plus or whatever they decide to do on Cyber Monday or whatever the hell they roll in there.
I think PS Plus gives you an extra 20% off, possibly.
Something
Which
like
is
that, yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, this comes with all the DLC and stuff. Like
This is
Blood and
if you're
Wine.
one of those people who like you just want a game to just absorb your time, and you're like you want to spend as little money as possible and get the most out of it as possible. Witcher 3 is one of my favorite games. One of my favorite games ever. I love that game. And this includes like the full game, which is a massive, massive game, and then 2 expansions. One of which I'm halfway through, and the other one I haven't even touched. So it's like there's a lot there to do.
Yeah.
And then you get some extra costumes and funny hair hats or whatever the hell you want for the game.
Hair hats, eh?
Yeah, hair hats.
I have 2 picks. One is Battlefront Deluxe Edition, which is the version I believe was $70 at launch. It's Star Wars Battlefront. It doesn't contain all of the season pass stuff. If you want to wait out for the $40 version of the Ultimate Edition, which comes out in a week or two. But Battlefront Deluxe Edition is $9.99 or $7.49 for the regular version. Deluxe has a couple extra guns, I believe. Like, remember what was in there?
I think you get Han Solo's blaster at
right off the
launch,
bat.
which
You
is
get a whip.
So
it's a good gun.
It's a good whip.
the cool thing about this is that anybody who owns this game, any version of it, gets the Battlefront VR experience for free. Yeah. So if you want Battlefront VR for $7.50, which is just a short thing, and you get all Battlefront stuff with that, jump on that.
Also, like, can I just say for a second, the $40 version of Battlefront, if you slept on it last year and you've even remotely been interested in playing a really fun Star Wars online shooter, get on that. Yeah.
And so much has been added to it.
You get to go in Jabba's bathtub. It's gross in there.
By the time you buy this version, you'll be able to play as Jyn Erso or Director Krennic in the new Rogue One map, which is basically that beachfront party with all that.
That's coming out real soon.
All the AT-ATs.
Operation Spring Breakers.
And my last one is Mad Max, which is $7.99. And again, that might be tilted a little bit with the PlayStation Plus discounts, but $7.99 for one of the best open world games that you probably didn't play. Really fun, really cool. Doesn't doesn't really tie into the movie as much as I think a lot of people hoped.
Yeah.
But it's gorgeous. The voice acting is really
car
good.
combat's really good.
Yeah, it's great. It's
A game that emphasizes car combat, which very few.
it feels kind of
games do.
like Double Dragon meets Twisted Metal meets Assassin's Creed.
Dang.
So yeah, good pedigree there.
Yeah.
Now it is time for the show part. Damn it. Now it is time for What VR Playing, the #1 VR segment of the show that we do here.
Yep.
Brian, you got one of those hats that you can go into different places with.
Funny Vism hats.
Yeah.
Shout out to Tiger Bauer for the name What VR Playing. I'm going to get through these real quick, but there's a bunch that I really like.
takes.
And some that I don't. #1, Space Rift is 1999, just launched last week. It's sort of like an episodic sci-fi TV show from the 90s. It's pretty low budget, but it's kind of endearing, like in a funny way. Jared, I think you'd be really into this.
Okay.
The voice acting is like either super British or very badly Scandinavian. I can't tell, which I kind of love it for.
This is like the VR version of Red Dwarf meets like Space Rangers.
Kind of,
okay,
yeah.
I'm there.
And it's all first person, and it's sort of like this story-based thing where you start off in space and you do some space combat. It's a little less disorienting than, say, something like Eve or the Call of Duty thing. But I kind of like this. I would wait for this to drop to like a few bucks. It's totally like just a middle of the road type of experience. But if you're looking for something that's like less totally intense dogfighting and you want to just kind of mess around in space for a little bit, this is pretty cool. #2, Time Machine VR, which just launched. It's $29.99, but I think it's actually a little cheaper with PlayStation Plus, like most of these things. I really like this game. You're in a time machine that goes back to dinosaur times to investigate how they lived, so you can bring back ideas to the future to save people from a planetary like virus wipeout. What? Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. What? Video games. So it's first person and you're in a time machine. It's a little disorienting at first. You tried this yourself, right?
I got very nauseous like a year and a half ago. I played this demo.
How do you know you weren't just sick in general anyways?
Yeah.
Coulda, yeah.
So it's really cool because it's basically this. You're in this underwater pod that reminds me of the thing that the kids drive around in Jurassic World.
Yeah.
You go down underwater and the left trigger actually freezes time, so you can go right up in like a big like giant dinosaur's mouth and look at his chompers and see how he eats. You can X-ray scan his stomach and see a whole bunch of like baby little animals in there and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's real gross and real cool, and I really like it. It's a good
And
time
it's
for
weird, by Minority Media.
By Brian Altano,
Yeah.
age
who
8.
made Papa EO. So
That's right.
A strange,
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
strange second game.
Yeah, from the makers of that comes this. Okay. #3, Hollow Ball, which I believe the embargo's up. If not, rolling the dice on that one or rolling the ball. But I like this game. I couldn't actually get it to work as well as I wanted to because this is one of those VR games that really needs the entire depth of your living room, like HTC Vive levels of like, we need your room. When you're playing a VR game that can't fully capture where you are in the room, I think I've talked about this before, but the way my living room setup is, it's a little squashed and there's like a sectional in there. So if you back up too far to play a VR game like that, I'd have to stand up on my sectional, and I just look like an idiot holding like 2 wands and a hat, and I'm jumping on my couch. Like
You look like a stock photo of a gamer.
yeah, like a disgruntled little baby boy. So this is sort of like a first-person Pong style game that I think they're going for kind of like an esport approach. It's very highly competitive. The art direction is kind of Tron-ish, and it's only $14.99, and I think it's even cheaper with Plus, like always. So check that out if you have the space for it. Like I always say, I really, really wish it was mandatory to put a demo for every one of these things on the store. #4, Trackmania Turbo just launched, or it's been out for a while, but they put out a free VR update. The game is usually $39.99, but with the Black Friday sale, it's actually under $15. 40 levels were added for free in VR. And it feels sort of like one of those like weird 90s or mid 2000s like Hot Wheels racing games.
Oh, nice.
It's kind of somewhere between a third person roller coaster game and just like Burnout. Yeah. So I really like it. It's just a fun little thing they've thrown in there. If you have the game already, totally free update. If you're looking for a cool, like kind of less drive clubby, more arcadey Burnout style racing game, check this out. It's super cheap, really fun. I had a really good time with it.
And if you buy this, that's like you get the regular game too.
Yeah, totally get the full game, which doesn't really work in VR. But like I said, 40 extra levels. The full game is awesome. It's got tons of really cool stuff.
So like maybe if you're expecting to get a PSVR for Christmas or something and you want to just jump on something to screw around with, it's a good option.
Yeah, honestly, like if you're getting a PSVR for Christmas, I mean, just go through the last few episodes and dig through what I've talked about here, because I think that there's like there'll be like something like 45 different games on this thing by the end of the year, and it's like there's a bunch of hidden gems on there. Yeah. And #5 is Gary the Gull, which is totally free, and it's an interactive film that just launched. I haven't actually got to try this out yet.
I have done this.
Yeah,
I played this at a demo. I finally have something to say about PSVR. You're sitting on this beautiful beach, and it's kind of like it feels like a interactive Pixar short, kind of. Basically, this obnoxious gull shows up, and he's just trying to tell you to like he's trying to like steal your sandwiches.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and the whole thing is it's based on nodding or shaking your head. Oh, so there's like a level of sort of interactivity, but he just kind of, it feels very like Simon Says sort of. I'm not sure how much more in depth it is, but it's just
kind of like Dragon Slayer-ish or Brain Dead 13 type. Or?
No, like not that in depth
even
at all.
that involved.
It's like you're sitting in a beach chair and this seagull shows up and he's like, "Hey,"
you're mildly interacting with like a virtual pet.
Yeah.
Okay.
I really like the nodding yes or no as a gameplay mechanic thing. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I feel like they should do that in like RPGs.
Yeah, I think someone could make a like revisit like schoolyard games, like Duck Duck Goose or Mr. Fox. What time it is and make time is it? And make
What
like
is that?
Mr. Fox. What time is it?
No,
we used to play that.
It's like red light, green light kind of.
Oh, really?
I think.
Well, why don't you
Yeah,
just play
it's
that?
kind of like that. Yeah.
Mr. Fox, what time is it?
Mr.
Yeah, we
Fox,
used to play
Mr.
that too.
Fox. What time is it?
Get that dude to watch.
Yeah, that's really easy. Everyone has phones in their pocket.
We're children. We don't have watches or phones.
Yeah, I don't know. I forget how you play that
We're
game.
an orphan?
No, children.
Did you guys ever play 7-Up?
Yeah, it's like that.
Okay, it's like
I
that.
mean, it's funny. It's not like that, but
Like a soda pop?
it's a game you play with a bunch of dumb kids, and it's like I like the idea of games revisiting mechanics like that. You know?
Yeah.
In the same way that like Metal Gear is hide and seek.
Yeah, totally.
But taking something really, really simple that we all understand how to play, and then endowing it with high tech mechanics.
I love that.
So now it is time for BRAPID Fire, everyone's favorite part of the show, where we go in the Podcast Beyond Facebook group, which is facebook.com/group/Podcast Beyond. Sometimes we pull from the YouTube channel, which is, IGN Beyond. First question, Jacob Vauder says, Game of the Year so far for 2016.
You have to say one thing. You can't do one of these pussyfoots.
All right. I've put a gun to my head today, The Witness.
Why?
Because it says something in a really non-preachy and wonderful way.
Cool.
Battlefield 1. That's weird though, because like
If you told me the Game of the Year, Max's Game of the Year was going to be a Battlefield game.
Did you play the single player stuff yet?
Not really.
Not even.
I kind of scratched it. I didn't like what I did play, but what's weird about that is I think I've spent more time with the beta and playing like on a live stream on an Xbox, which was like, it was fun for a live stream. But like I've put more time in it basically not on my own account. So it's this feeling of like when you play a game at like a preview event or like a demo of it and then you get the full game and you're like, I got to replay this part again. It's kind of like that. And like, it's almost a chore because I have to get to a higher level and unlock some stuff. But the time I've spent with it, I really like. I'm obviously trying to get through as many games as I can.
Yep.
I know where Battlefield is going, but I mean, that's going to be one of those ones I keep jumping back into.
Yeah, I'm kind of bummed I haven't gone and played through the single player yet. I really
like the
want
campaign
to.
a lot.
Yeah,
There's
I can't
horses.
Yeah, there's horses.
My pick is Watch Dogs 2. Like I said before, it's just on a gameplay level. I think it's just like one of the richest, deepest games this year. The fact that I can like approach combat scenarios without actually using my gun. One of my favorite things to do in that game is come in with my 2 different drones, call different gangs and cops onto a scenario, and just sit back and watch everything play out, and go in and extract the FBI data that I need and leave. It's like also one of the funniest games I played this year, just in terms of not even writing, but just like moment to moment things happening.
Yeah. Watch Dogs is on my short list, but I agree with Jared. I think The Witness would still be mine. I think the sort of puzzle language of that game and the ramp up, I think, is singular in games. I've never seen anything like it.
Side note, if you guys were to make a guess, which I think is like really interesting that we all almost had very different answers here, what do you think IGN's Game of the Year will be?
The Witness.
You think so?
Yep.
I think Pokemon Go.
I think Witness, Overwatch, Pokemon.
What about
a lot of people
Inside?
are saying Dishonored. Inside got a 10. Yeah, I know Alana's is Dishonored too.
Interesting. Yeah, I got to get some time with that game.
Yeah.
Pokemon Go is a strong contender in the office. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of those, like, there was that photo of like the Norwegian prime minister sitting in the United Nations playing Pokemon Go on her phone.
Yeah.
Like, how many of our parents were like, what's Pokemon Go about?
Yeah.
It's like the fact that it bridged the gap between game and, reality. Anyway.
Well, I think it's kind of like when you're like, who's the man of the year?
Yeah.
Who's Times Man of the Year? Trump, right? No, really. Like it doesn't have to mean that like
Hitler was Man of the Year.
Well, it doesn't mean you have to do the best things, but in terms of like the person that impacted the most things, like, and I know IGN's Game of the Year is a little different because it's not entirely just based on how high of a score we gave it. If you look at Pokemon Go, like the social.
I was kind of weirded out that people made The Rock the sexiest man of the year because I'm like, there's like a lot of like, he's obviously a very pretty man. He's very muscular and all that, but he's also charming. Like he's funny. He's got like a wonderful. He eats a lot of food. He has a good Instagram.
Seems like a very good father.
But yeah, he seems like it's more like I think he's just a great guy. Like I mean, I would like I don't know a lot of women who are like, I would F the crap out of The Rock. They're more like, I love him. He's lovable.
Maybe the good folks over at People are finally trying to understand that personality goes a long way.
Maybe.
I do think
personality and a giant muscular self.
But I think with The Witness and Pokemon Go, here we have
Great
two
pivot.
games that both did tremendous things that maybe haven't been done before in games.
Yep.
Either one of them, but they're both, and so that makes it very, very difficult.
Yeah.
All right, Sean Messler says, what's the craziest jerry-rigged way you've ever used to get your gaming fix? When I moved to LA, my HD TV broke about a month later, so I hooked up to my PS3 to my portable DVD player with a 7-inch screen so that I could finish Infamous.
I love that.
Yeah, this question was asked in the group by Sean, which spawned this entire thread of people responding to it, which you should go check out because it's really, really funny. But yeah, in terms of rapid fire, I think like we totally have to answer this because I have a really good one for this. In college, I had a GameCube and a PS2, and I didn't have a TV because I moved to New York City with basically nothing. And in New York, it was a weird city because people just throw stuff out and it sits there for a few hours. You can get it. Like I went to art school and I did most of my paintings on found objects because it was cheaper than buying canvases every week. Some guy threw out like a 17-inch, one of those big kind of fat-butted TVs, right? And I was playing Resident Evil Remake and Resident Evil 0 on it. And the thing about this TV is that for some reason, every now and then, it would start to get really, really dim and then go dark until you slap the side of it, and then it would brighten up again. So I'd be like playing in the basement of the Trevor Mansion or whatever the hell they call it in Resident Evil, and like it just horrifying monsters would be coming towards me, and all of a sudden the screen would get very, very dim and dark. So it really leaned into horror games really well. Not so much for like Smash Brothers and Pikmin and stuff like that, but for other stuff really well.
You were playing like a real life version of Eternal Darkness.
Yes,
like that's amazing.
That's totally
That sounds so good.
Totally true.
So in college, my buddy had a really wonderfully janky like Jeep Cherokee, and we got into our heads that we should try to pimp his ride, but on a budget. And that meant going to like, I don't know where, we went to like the auto parts store or something and got one of those things that converts your like cigarette lighter output into like a regular plug. And we're like, let's hook up a TV and a Super Nintendo in the back of the car. And so we did that. And like the idea there, I think it draws from your battery. In practice, the engine had to be running. And so we had like a little TV in the back of the truck, the back of the Jeep and the Super Nintendo. But like you'd also be sitting there basically tailgating, but the engine would be running. So it's just like a bunch of carbon monoxide. So I wound up playing, and there wasn't like any real way you could position this so that it was like comfortable to play.
Yeah.
So I remember playing one time while he was just driving around. I'm just like lying on my back in the back of the truck with like the TV just sort of in my lap, and like I'm kind of like got the Super NES like wedged up behind me, and I'm just playing the first level of Star Fox, and he's like going around corners and everything rolls around, and there's like a soccer ball back there with me, and I was like, all right, but
and then when he goes to get gas or something, he has to shut off his car. The Super Nintendo shuts off, right?
Yeah, it wasn't a good setup. I don't know. It was just sort of like one of those things where like we're dumb, we don't know anything about cars. Let's do this, and then I've got a photo somewhere. It's just like the back of his Jeep with like the TV in it. We've got like the start stage for Street Fighter, and there's just like a bunch of Mountain Dew cans everywhere, but they're like the Safeway brand Mountain Dew because we were also
that is an excellent like low budget like 90s Super Nintendo commercial.
Yeah, I think the only thing I have remotely close to that I remember was when the first Pokemon came out and trying to play it with a flight because there was no backlight on the original Game Boy, and so trying to play it like on car rides at night using a flashlight like wedged under my chin and doing this. I'm like, what am I doing?
I remember like going under a hoodie or like something like that, like just that was.
You could buy that horrible thing that you like stapled onto the front that had the mirror or had the magnifying glass and the speakers and what's that thing called? Mine's really sad and pathetic. It was all from childhood, just moments where I wanted to play games that didn't have them, and I had that video game mania that was instilled in my soul. So like I wanted a Nintendo for a long time and couldn't have one, so I would at school as soon as I finished working on my assignments, I would flip my paper over and draw Super Mario Brothers boards, and then I would draw my little path through them with my pen and the hops, and I would move the AI creatures around and hit my head and have things pop out, and I would do that until Mario died, and then I start drawing Another Life and try that. I would go. I had to
Wait,
spend.
so you drew out entire levels?
Yeah, I would draw them all out.
Because I used to do
and
that
play
too.
them
That's
with my
really
pen
funny.
and jump
I love
over
that.
things. And and that was like, I want a Nintendo. So I did, I would get those little Tops like scratch off cards for Donkey Kong that had the Donkey Kong boards. And you would scratch off your route, and I would play through those. But I remember my dad was a pastor, and I'd spend a lot of time at the church, and the church computer didn't have any games on it, and I would just be bored and want to play a video game. So I'd turn the word processor on, and I would like write text adventure or RPG commands in, and then I'd imagine what happened, and then I'd write the next part to be like, you struck the orc. The orc struck you.
I love you,
You
Jared Petty.
killed the orc. Like, and I
love
would just
you.
make up things in the word processor and pretend I was playing
That's so cool.
a text RPG.
That's so cool. Like, I think it's amazing that, like, I mean, I have like game developer friends that pull up, like, they'll tweet out pictures every now and then of like, look at these, like, I drew Mario levels when I was a kid.
Yeah.
It's weird that you and I both did that, and that we didn't like. That's not really. We didn't get into like actually making platformers.
That
or
end of
anything
it,
like that.
yeah. Well, what's
I
wrong
used
with
to
us?
make. I used to make like paper Game and Watches that were basically like fighting games that would have like characters on each side that you could control with pieces of paper. So I would basically like draw like Ken and Ryu and put them on each side of like a little thing. And I was like, I had a Game Boy, I had a Game and Watch, but I'm like, but I could also make my own. And they would you could like move them up and down and kick each other.
Maybe someday we will.
Maybe
I think
someday we will.
one thing I've always loved about side scrollers and just kind of platformers, and I mean specifically I think like Super Metroid, but it's that kind of that ant farm like fish tank view.
Yes.
And
We look at that like Wes Anderson view almost of like a cutout of the world.
And I mean, I used to love drawing like bases. Like I draw like blueprints for like weird secret bases, and they'd be like, oh, here's where the hovercraft goes, and oh no, there's a gargoyle over here.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like that sense of like discovery. And then when I first played Super Metroid, I was like,
oh,
what's all this? And like
Yeah.
Prince of Persia, like I love that sense of like you're exploring this area, but it's kind of manageable enough that you're not just like getting, you don't get lost
you
that
can
way.
consume the information on a single screen.
Yeah. All right, so
That was fun.
Blar Lucian Curtin says, what games do you like the idea of but do not actually enjoy? Springboarding off what I just said, the Souls games. I wish I enjoyed them, but I don't like the crushing difficulty so much. But I love the kind of the sense of exploration that they have, where it's like, oh, instead of having like a checkpoint or whatever, it's like, oh, you've got to open a gate for yourself. And
They've been really strong against ever putting in some sort of easy mode or anything like that. But I feel like they should at least put in like some kind of like, I don't know, like walking tour mode, like just to see the art in that world, like
Remove enemies, remove doors.
Well, I mean, because what sucks is that the enemies are a great part of it.
Yeah.
But it'd be cool to just sort of play like Invisible Man mode, where you could just like walk through a Dark Souls game or a Bloodborne game, just see all the like creatures interacting in the fly in the wild.
I'm sure somebody's modded that in there, but yeah.
Mine's probably Minecraft.
Oh.
Love the idea of unlimited creativity and freedom, but
You don't
every
have
time
it?
I play that game, I'm just like, oh.
Yeah.
I don't want to build a house. This
Mine's
stupid.
Mine's Smash Brothers.
Oh.
I get it sucks, man, but I get immensely excited watching that roster come together every 3 or 4 years. Seeing characters like Snake and Sonic and like everybody else show up. Mega Man when Pac-Man when he showed up. I was at the live thing when they introduced Pac-Man when Sakurai came out at E3. And I remember walking out of there being like, that's so cool. All these levels are awesome. The art's so cool. I'm going to buy the amiibos and stuff like that. And then I was like, oh, wait. Like, you suck at that game, and you don't like playing it. Like, to me, it's not really a great fighting game, and it's not really a great platforming game. So it's sort of like, as a Nintendo fan who loves like the way Mario games control, it doesn't work well as one of those. And as a guy who like kind of enjoys fighting games, it doesn't really click as one of those for me.
That's
So
interesting. I like those games because they're don't fall games.
Totally,
Like, that's what I enjoy about them. But I totally get that. For me, it's RTSs that aren't Red Alert. I love the idea of StarCraft. It's one of the most brilliant, when StarCraft 2 likewise, brilliant, well-crafted, incredibly balanced games ever, and I just do not enjoy playing it. It's the case with a lot of RTSs like that for me, even though I love the idea.
I have the same one as you, except for Advance Wars instead of Red Alert. Advance Wars is like a gem to me, and everything else I've ever tried to play in that genre, I'm like, it's just not the same.
Now, Advance Wars I love, but that's more like a turn-based strategy. But I totally get that. And then most of the things like that Rare made for the N64, I love the idea. Like things like Blast Corps.
Yeah.
Like I really like the idea
Strong
of Blast
Blast Corps.
It's escort mission the game. Like it sounds really, really cool until you start
I'll be
playing
honest,
it.
I played that game in like, I don't know, I was probably 11 or 12. And it was one of those things where we never really stopped to figure out how to play it. And I was like, you can blow stuff up. That's all right. I'm a cement mixer.
That game rules.
Be a dump truck. And I'm like,
Parts
it's
of
a
that
great,
game,
it's a great idea, but I don't like playing it.
Yeah.
I love the
Are you
art
gonna say
direction.
any other N64 Rare games?
Well, no, because I don't think a stupid bear with a stupid bird in his backpack is a good idea for a video game.
Oh, take that over to Unlocked and let those boys know what's up.
yeah. Anyway,
Go on the show.
Samuel Jordan says, I'll have the money for a PSVR, but should I hold out to save and see? Should I hold out and save to see if the Switch is worth it?
Yes.
I mean, if
I feel like this is like, I want to get Chinese food. Should I hold out for pizza? Like they are completely different things.
If you have whatever X amount of money and you're like, I'm going to buy one thing in the next year, should it be PSVR or Switch? My thing is wait until January to see what the hell the Switch is.
I completely
wait till you
agree.
see how much it costs. Wait till you see, hey, are we getting Zelda or Mario at launch? Are we getting neither of them at launch?
Are we going to get third-party support?
Yeah, is the launch lineup just going to be a bunch of Wii U games?
I mean, I'm one of the people that will tell you that a PSVR is completely worth it right now. And that I won't say burned, but I've been sort of knocked back a little by the last few Nintendo consoles that I'll get one at launch because it's my job and because I enjoy video games and it's what I do. But it's also because I think that like eventually after the first year or so, you're going to see that once the third-party support starts to dwindle on this thing and you're just left with first-party games, you're going to have a lot of the same stuff that we've always had. Whereas I feel like PSVR is going to continue to grow. I hope I'm not wrong about that.
I think that's all marvelously valid. I'd still wait. I'd wait because even though I think PSVR is also worth it and really love it, I'd wait to see what is coming with Switch because the first 3 years of Wii were pretty great.
Yeah.
And I'm totally willing to hang around for that. If this does turn out to be a low-priced, reasonably capable switch-off machine that does amazing things we've never seen, and it's Pokemon Stars, if Pokemon Stars and
Zelda
a new
and
Mario
Mario
3D and a
Pikmin.
Zelda game,
Yeah.
all in the first. I want that.
Pokemon game running in HD.
Exactly. It could be absolutely lovely. So wait to see is my thought on the matter. But if you really want a VR and you can afford both, I mean, Super Hypercube and Thumper and Rez are rad.
Yeah, so I feel I'm like if you have a PS4, like this feels like a good sort of like companion piece to a piece of hardware you have already, right? I don't think I would go out and buy a PSVR just for PSVR, but as a guy who owns a PS4 already and just got the Pro, like I think it's sort of like it fits in nice with that whole universe, that ecosystem. I hate using that word, but there it is.
Is it the eco or the system?
Both. But yeah, it's always wait and see with Nintendo, right? And I think you guys are right in terms of just like let's see how this shakes out.
All right, David Brander says, I'll be teaching scuba diving this weekend in front of the National Dive Officer, head honcho type. Pretty scary. Do you ever feel apprehensive about your work when certain guests come on or other personalities?
When I met a bunch, I was in this little documentary a few years ago that being at IGN helped me become a part of. It was about the origins of Atari. And I met the guys that made the games I grew up on, a bunch of these Atari OGs that had created some of the first home console software. Being in the room with those dudes, most of whom aren't in the industry anymore, I was butterflies in the stomach ain't the word. Like I was shaking. It was so amazing to go to that premiere and be around them. Yeah, because these people had fashioned my childhood.
And your job.
Yeah, and my job and the course of my life. They had created worlds that inspired me to be the person I am. I ran into Steve Russell at the Video Game Museum. He's the guy who made Space War in 1961, 62. I just bumped into Steve Russell a few weeks ago. I was a blathering idiot for an hour.
Yeah,
it was extraordinary. Yeah, I know. It's a blathering idiot. That's what I do. But this is the guy that, I mean, arguably the real creator of video games.
So cool.
Along with a couple other people, Willie Higginbotham and Ralph Baer.
Where'd you run into him?
Computer History Museum. He just volunteers once or twice a month.
So cool.
So they have a PDP-1 there that they've restored, and you go in, hey, there's a PDP-1 room, and there's this dude just like hanging out in there.
Man.
And I'm like, that's Slug Russell? And it is. And I was just like, what in the... And so I get to play Space War on a PDP-1, talk to Steve Russell. It's a good day.
People frequently ask us like what to do in San Francisco proper. Plenty of stuff to talk about there. But if you ever find yourself down at the peninsula in San Jose, go to the Computer History Museum. It's awesome. One of the most fascinating places just in terms of technology. They have something called the Charles Babbage Difference Engine, which is basically, if that had been made the way it was made, it would have changed history completely. It was pretty much the first computer, and it's all clockwork. They operate it on Sundays, and they've got docents who will be like, give you the whole history, and it's staggering to see in action.
That dude create Babbage's?
No, that's what it's named for, though.
Is it?
Yeah, it's named for him. Yeah, I also, it was pretty great watching. They have a Pong set up there next to the original Andy Cat Pong machine. They have Pong set up. And there was like this 7-year-old kid and his dad playing Pong. And the kid was like, it's pretty much like a regular video game, except you use this. And I was like,
Yeah.
it's
like a baby's toy. You got to use your hands.
No, it's great. He was really having fun.
Yeah, I absolutely get nervous talking to people. Like I get nervous talking to people, just not even personalities. Just like, I mean, the job we do is weird and obtuse, and it's. I mean, I'm having like Brian, you are awesome at interviews, and you get nervous, and I'm like, I'm just like, there's times when I'm like, I don't want to interview people. That's terrifying. Like, let me just talk to a prompter. Like, I don't. I'm fine being on camera, but like. I don't know.
Were you guys all like to get up in front of the class and be excited to read your homework garbage?
I was, yeah.
I was not. That scared the crap out of me. I hated that.
Yeah, I was terrified for my first couple of years.
Yeah.
No, I love nothing on earth more than tremendous amounts of attention. It's only meeting people that actually meant something to me personally that really scares me. Like this I love. Talking to the prompter I love. Most interviews I love. But walking into a room with people that were gods, not men in my mind, that's where I
think the most nerve-wracking thing about doing interviews with IGN is that like we'll be like coming in kind of like live and someone's like counting you in and you've got a thing in your ear and like you have to interview somebody you work with and then like 3 people whose names you have to remember and all their roles. And it's like, that sounds like, oh, you have to remember 3 people's names. Like, oh, what are you, an idiot? But then it's like, you're trying to remember all your questions, and it's just kind of like, how do you keep the words in your head and then make them kind of come out of your mouth? And
you're also like brought to you by Taco Bell, and like the crane is coming again. Like it's not working in a coal mine or but it's an extra thing.
It's like it's easier to talk about something comfortably that you know a lot about. So like live show segments at E3 or at Comic-Con, like if you are super familiar, like when I'm talking about Final Fantasy 15, I'm like, I can do this all day. But if it's like, hey, you got to go on and talk about FIFA, I'm like,
have I told my Skyrim fish story on the show?
No, I don't think so.
So one of the first big interviews I did was at PAX Prime 2011, I think, and it was after the first time I went hands-on with Skyrim. I was super crazy excited for it at that point. Obviously, everyone was looking forward to it a ton. I was working with Destructoid at the time, and I was set up to do an interview with. I was going to be talking to Todd Howard. Like I was going to be interviewing the guy who we'd been like running quotes from like all this time, and like I was so excited. And basically, we do this thing where, like, you know, you'll get your guest sort of corralled over to you, and they set you up in front of the camera. And I was like, they're like, oh yeah, here's who you're talking to, and I'm like, I didn't actually know what Todd Howard looked like. Who I was talking to was Matt Carafano, who is the art director. He's also like kind of just like a very like low key, like low energy sort of guy. And I was preparing like all these questions, and I'm just like, I was going through my head and just freaking out, and I'm like, honored to meet you. Really excited about what you're working on here. It's going to be great. And like, obviously, you know, Matt Carafano worked on the game too, but I thought he was Todd Howard. And so they start rolling the camera, and they're like, could you spell your name for the camera for editor and list your title? And he goes, Matt Carafano, MattCarafano. I'm the art director for Skyrim. And I'm like,
oh, that's not good.
Oh. And then I go, hey everybody, I'm here at PAX Prime 2011 and I'm with Matt, who's the art director. And I'm just like, I'm like out the gate, I'm just completely rattled. And like this guy, we're not gonna waste the guy's time. So we're shooting, and I'm just like, my first question is, so how many fish are in Skyrim? Because like we hadn't really seen much of the game in action, and they have it all rolling, and people are like, and I'd like wandered off, and I was like looking up at the TVs they have at the Bethesda booth, and there's just like people are like running around in the streams and just grabbing fish, and I'm like, oh wow, you can get trout. That's nuts. They got salmon and trout.
Oh, you meant perch? Like how many species, like different types of fish?
Yeah,
I thought you meant like cumulative count of fish.
No, I was like, so we got all kinds of wildlife, and I just saw you got fish. So how many different kinds of fish? And he's just like, what? Huh? And I'm just asking like the dumbest questions, and of course like people in the comments, like they were half like, this guy's an idiot, and other people were like, that's pretty funny. Yeah, so I don't know.
Sounds like comments. Speaking of Skyrim though,
yeah, we actually Marty and I have started a new series. It's called Welcome to Skyrim. It is a Marty's never played Skyrim.
I'm a Khajiit virgin.
Yeah, I've taken your Elder Scrolls V card.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a Roman numeral pun.
That's really good.
About virginity.
It's the 5th Elder Scrolls.
But yeah, go check that out.
A lot of gross stuff in this show this week.
Yeah. So Marty and I are playing the game. It's a lot of fun. Go check that out.
Just Welcome to Skyrim, episode 1.
Yeah.
Leave a nice comment.
Yeah, please.
Throw those some upvotes.
For the love of God. We're going to find out how many fish are in that game. We're going to get to the bottom of it.
Bethany found a couple.
Yeah, Bethany is our character. She's a Khajiit, and she's going to wizard school unless she can't get in. What will happen? Who knows?
Classic Bethany.
Yeah. So before we go, do we have any? Do we have a present?
Yeah, we got a present.
We got a present.
We got a present from.
Can you guys vamp?
Beyond
Yeah,
fans.
we could
if
what
you
is
have
this?
presents you want to send us, you can send them to
625 Second Street.
Podcast Beyond at
Fourth
625 2nd Street, 4th floor, San Francisco, 94107. Just like
Sean. Jesus.
Whoa.
Christ.
The world looks mighty good to me.
Does it have the word
'cause
midgies on it?
Tootsie Rolls are all I see. Whatever it is, I think I see becomes a Tootsie Roll. to
Shut up,
me.
Mr. Owl.
Tootsie Roll, chocolatey chew.
Oh, God.
Tootsie Roll, I think I'm in love with you.
For those of you listening to the audio version of this, including the 2 other orders, this is now 15 total pounds of sugar love for you, you amazing witty bastards.
Did he send the
love
gummy
ya,
bears too?
Dion. I don't know. It's a 5-pound bag of Tootsie Rolls.
Oh, that is a big bag of Tootsie Balls.
I love how specific it is.
Don't open it.
760.
Why not? What are you talking about?
Okay, anyway.
Hey, everybody, come on down if you want some
We
candy.
have to clean the studio after this. You're going to make a mess.
It's not bad. It's not a mess. They're not melted or
Dude, I
anything.
have a Pomeranian.
They're
I can't-
delicious Tootsie
I
Rolls.
can't eat Tootsie Rolls
Children
anymore.
of all ages
They
enjoy
look like my
nice
dog's
Tootsie
poops.
Roll.
Anyway,
Come on
went-
down to the Tootsie store.
Brian,
The
please-
Tootsie Boys
It
are
smells
here.
so good in
They're
here.
hungry for more rolls.
it smells like a shoe
It
factory in
smells
here.
delicious. What are
Boys
you
and
talking
girls
about?
from all over the land.
Brian, stop with this. Stop. Please stop.
We did
Brian,
so
please,
good since
please,
the ham episode.
please stop.
If
Please.
you want to view paradise,
Okay, Jared, take the Tootsie Rolls.
simply look around
Gladly.
and view it.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to Podcast
Ooh,
Beyond.
those have got a funky stench.
Yeah, it smells horrible in here now. It's already cold. It's weird.
I feel like a horse in a trough. It's kind of.
Anyway, Podcast Beyond is a show we do every week. Last week we fragmented the show into a bunch of different video clip pieces. Sorry about that. Stop
Yeah,
wriggling.
we were. It's growing pains from
handed
being
it
inside
to
the
me.
studio, and we were sort of getting our footing. And yeah, we listened to you.
Yeah.
A lot of people didn't like the fact that it was fragmented, so we're back to full episodes.
Yeah,
which you can find at youtube.com/IGN Beyond every week.
Yeah, or I think also on IGN Proper and all the apps and all the whatnots. And thank you guys for listening. You can find us all on Twitter. I'm Max Scoville. Brian is Agent Bizzle. Marty is McBiggities with 2 G's and 2 T's. And Jared is Petty, Jared.
Indeed.
Spelled out with letters.
That
C-O-M-M-A.
was such a terrifying little
And
episode.
remember, if you're hungry,
Stop.
looksy, a tootsie, home of the roll.
If that noise is awful for you, it's because we are dropping Tootsie Rolls on a glass table that is covered in microphones.
I thought it was wonderful.
Congratulations. If you thought it was bad hearing grown men eat an entire honey glazed ham for an hour, there are worse sounds to hear. Be sure to subscribe to youtube.com/IGN Beyond for more ASMR videos.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful holiday and, love each other. And we'll be back next week with more fun times.
Beyond.
Beyond.